Welcome to the tutorial on how to restore data from archive files that have been created by a file backup process. This demonstration ties in with what we have learned in the previous video, where we saw how to do a file backup to save the personal user folders of Windows, and in addition the use of so-called file categories. Basically, the recovery of data from a file archive is a relatively simple process, because we are working with files and folders only and not with entire disk drives, as it is the case when recovering data from partition images. As shown in the previous video, file archives are also a good way to transfer data from one computer to another. Let's have a closer look at this process by switching to the main category Backup and Restore to launch the Recovery wizard. You may already be familiar with the use of this wizard from a previous video where we restored data from a partition image. After the introductory dialog, we come to the selection of the file archive that we want to work with. By the way, in contrast to the backup procedure, it is not necessary to specify the type of archive that we are going to use for recovery, which means it doesn't matter whether it is an image or a file archive. As you will soon see, Acronis image will recognize this automatically after you choose an archive file. We find our archive file on the D drive, in the directory Backup Archive, where we previously placed it, labeled with a date in its individual subdirectory. Here it is. In the information area on the right side, we can see that this file is automatically labeled as a file archive. Please be aware that the disk drive and directory structures we are using here, as well as the file names, are only examples and they may look different on your system. After that brief reminder, we can click on Next to reach the point for choosing the destination where the data in the file archive will be restored to. Here you are able to select the original place or a new alternative place. The description area advises you that Acronis image always restores the full original directory structure of the saved data in the file archive. As you will soon see for personal user folders like Documents, this means that you have to deal with a relatively long directory structure in the current user profile. At least this is the case when you are using the default configuration of Microsoft Windows. Besides this, when we choose to restore data to the original location, we have to deal with yet another question. What will happen if files and directories in the backup archive exist in the destination location as well, and may be newer than the backup ones? We will take care of this topic more detailed in a later step of the wizard. For the purpose of our demonstration, we can learn more when we choose the second option, to restore the data to a new place. By the way, this choice is also recommended when you want to transfer files to another computer system. In this way, there is less danger of accidentally overwriting or mixing up the existing files and directory structure. You can also restore your files below the new location with the original directory structure. If you wish to do so, please activate the additional checkbox Restore Absolute Paths. The effect of this option will become more clear at the end of this tutorial when we take a look at the restoration result in the Windows Explorer. So therefore we will choose this feature as well and continue with the next step. This dialog for the selection of the restore destination only appears if you have chosen a new position for the files in the last step. For our purpose, the root of the D drive is a good choice, since this will make it easy to locate the restored files later in the Windows Explorer. By clicking on Next, we are asked to specify which contents of the archive will be restored. After opening the subfolder using the plus sign in front of it, we can see the directory structure of the saved data. If you wish to restore all files and folders, just activate the checkbox on the highest level. which is the one that is in front of the archive's name. To exclude any drives, folders or files from the restoration process, just uncheck the respective checkboxes. Let's concentrate on the restoration of the personal folder documents, which is called My Documents in Windows XP. We can find it on the C drive, within the Systems folder Users, and here in the personal subfolders of the current user. Please consider that this directory structure changed notably in Windows Vista compared to Windows XP. For example, even in foreign languages, the root directory for personal folders is still using the English term users. This is how it's named on the lowest level of the file system. But in the user interface of Windows and most applications, it's displayed with the respective translated term of the currently used language. Acronis image has to deal with these prerequisites of Windows. So don't be surprised when you use a Windows Vista version of a non-English foreign language that your personal folders are displayed with English terms here in the directory structure of the archive. Now we don't have many steps left to do. In the next dialog we have the choice of setting different restore options. Please be aware that these options also determine whether an archive is checked for errors before the restoration starts. Because another video tutorial already deals with this topic in detail, we will just confirm the default options at this point and go to the next step, where we define the restoration mode. Here there are 3 options that you can choose from. They determine what action Acronis image takes in case a file with the same name as the one to restore already exists in the destination folder. The preset option, where the existing file is overwritten when it has an older date, is in most cases the recommended option. The other 2 options give you the choice of always or never overwriting an existing file. These options are only recommended in special circumstances. Don't worry, these settings only affect files that already exist in both places, the archive and the destination folder. Or in other words, any files and data in the destination folder which don't have a counterpart in the file archive are not affected by these settings. We will continue with the preset middle option and move to the next step. Here you can exclude certain files and folders from the restoration process, just as we've discussed it in the previous video. For our demonstration it's not necessary to exclude any files, so therefore we go to the concluding and final dialog of the wizard. As always, at this stage we can use back to correct errors or click on Proceed to start the process. Because this operation is usually fairly fast, we receive a message after just a few seconds that the process is already completed. Finally, let's launch the Windows Explorer to check the recovery results on the D drive. As you can see, Acronis image has created a new root folder named Drive C that contains all the data we selected for recovery from the archive. In this directory structure we can step down all the way from our original personal user folder to the final subfolder with our documents. If you like, you can now copy or move your restored files to any other location using the Windows Explorer. And with this we have successfully completed the recovery of data from file archives, and thus reached the end of this video.